All right. Well, John, a lot of our listeners, the our show initially airs on a Rap Fiend radio, and we've got artists like, well, at least all over the country, and a few artists internationally that do check in and listen to this. You might not even have known that. And so I would like to touch on some of the songwriting and the musical talents that you have, because I'm positive, some of our listeners will find that very, very interesting. So,
yes.
So again, Rap Fiend Radio is the name of the radio station. The station plays a huge variety of traditionally hip hop music, but again, we got artists of all type that do listen. So, going to open that table up to you on your songwriting, your musical talents, and then anything in that genre that you'd like to discuss.
Yeah. Well, and again, I want to say thank you for letting me come onto your platform. Everybody loves to talk about themselves, but not everybody gets a sanctioned moment to do that. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us, man.
My music, wow. My music journey I guess you could say it started when I was a kid, singing in church, and that's where I learned how to harmonize. I was kind of self-taught on the piano and a little bit on guitar, but it just kind of stayed at the hobby level while I was living at home in the States. So it wasn't until I came here to Norway that I actually got formally into music and actually getting paid gigs to write songs and music and whatnot. And that's because here in Norway, of course, most of their music they sing in Norwegian, but there's also some artists here in Norway who perform in English, but they're not that good at writing. So that's where I come in. And it all started, my first job here, I was working as a teacher at a school, and the music teacher, who now is my best friend here in Norway, so I've known him for 20 years. He comes up to me and he says he has a band. They're a house band at a bar, but he's sitting on a bunch of music that he wants them to record, but he doesn't have any lyrics. Would I be interested in writing?
Oh, so cool. What are the style of lyrics that you write, or share your lyrics with us the best way you can?
Yeah, well, that band was like a they're called the Remy Brothers Band, and they play kind of old school rock, like classic rock, a lot of Allman Brothers type of stuff as well, Southern rock.
Okay.
So I write those kind of lyrics, but then I wrote 2 albums. Their first album is all my writing. Their second album, about 60% of the songs are my writing. And word got out that I was a decent songwriter. So I started getting gigs writing for metal bands. I even wrote a country album here recently.
Oh, cool.
I've helped rap artists on their lyrics, and I have my own solo project. And my solo project is it's like a mix of soul, R&B, rock, funk. If you melt all that together, that's what you have of my music. But
I kind of like what I'm hearing, man.
Yeah, but so far I've only released 4 singles so far. I was supposed to have released my album last year, but a death in the family kind of put the brakes on that album release. But it's in the vault, and it'll be coming out eventually. But until then, people can go on Spotify, iTunes, wherever, and find my music if they just search under my artist name, John Alan. I guess the best way is
Allan.
No, Alan. But I guess the best way that they could do it is just go to my website, and from there they'll see everything I do. If they go to www.johnalanpod.com, that's JOHNALANPOD.com. If they go there, they'll find all my music, my podcast, everything.
Yeah, well, at some point, I'd like to pick up this conversation with you in private. I've written about 100 songs over the course of the last year and a half, and
I love it.
Some questions for you, but we're not going to talk about that right now. At some point in the future, I would like to, though.
For sure, man. Hit me up on that. Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, let's dive. When you work narcotics, you said in Chicago suburbs.
Yes,
I'm generally from the Chicago area. What suburb was it?
South Holland.
South Holland. Gotcha.
Where are you from?
So, Aurora, Illinois, primarily.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was born in Wisconsin, bounced around a little bit, but most of my digs are in the Aurora, Illinois area.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I was in
So
South Holland, right up there on the southern edge of Chicago. So while it was a suburb and quite a peaceful suburb, there still was that, unfortunately, that ugly gang activity, a couple of murders, and plenty of drugs. So we were busy. We were
yeah, I mean,
busy.
if you know anything about Aurora, Illinois, then you can kind of understand
Yes.
the area where I grew up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever cross paths with Craig Tokarski?
That does not sound familiar. No.
Yeah, he was. I think he was in. Gosh darn, he was a power lifter, police officer. You love the guy, freaking phenomenal heart, cool dude, funny as can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
I just not able to pick up, probably pop in my head, but I'm sure you guys have some like common alliances, both through police
Probably.
work
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
powerlifting. So,
Probably. Yeah. Absolutely.
any highlight, any high points or low points in your career in that you could share with us?
Well, it was quite an exciting time for me. I'm a country boy from rural Ohio. I ended up in the Chicago area because of my first marriage. She was from the Chicago area, so that's how I ended up there. Uh, so to go from uh, that very quiet, very innocent, very rural country life to being a cop in the Chicago, South Chicago suburbs was quite a jump for me. So it was kind of, it, it was a rough adjustment. I'll put it
Oh, I
to you
bet.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, I did the job well, and I really enjoyed it. After the first 6 months or so of getting used to the way life is, I fell right into the rhythm of that job. I loved it. Rather quickly I got promoted to tactical officer, and then from there I started doing the detective work in narcotics and gangs. And I got to tell you, it was an eye opener for me. For somebody who grew up in a city environment, those things are nothing new. But for me, it was an eye opener as to the plight of certain segments of society. It
Oh,
was, it was,
100%.
yeah, it was quite the adjustment. But again, I'm all about learning. I always have been. So I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about humanity. One thing I can tell you, my last day on the job, there was a robbery at a local like a 7-Eleven or something. I don't remember what kind of, one of those all night stores. And my partner and I are driving down the road. Right as the call went out, we see the guy running across the street.
Oh,
So
wow.
my last day on the job was no, I'm sorry, not my last day. One of my last days, probably within the last week, was that excitement of seeing a robbery suspect running across the street. We chased him down, and he had a gun on him, and yeah, that was
Yep.
quite a way to end end my career as a cop. Yeah.
I'm assuming it got your adrenaline pumping just a bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. There were a lot of hot moments like that, but of course, not being directly in Chicago, things were quite a bit quieter than they are up there. But we had our share of happenings, and uh, yeah,
Yeah,
there it was
I'll
quite
share
a
a story with you, and you take it from there. It
yeah
was New Year's Eve. It was right after I had my patellar tendon reattachment surgery, 1994. The New Year's Eve going into 1995. You
yeah
know, I was on a kind of a reckless partying mission, and my buddy and I had gone out to Chicago that New Year's Eve. uh, we came outside of a bar on the north side of Chicago, and he started talking to this gentleman about scoring some kind of drugs. I didn't
yeah.
like the feel of it. Doesn't matter what my friend's name is. Let's just call him Mr. X.
Mr. X.
Mr. X, let's get out of here. I don't like this. He's like, yeah. So I like backed off. Next thing you know, wham, Chicago cops swarm us.
Wow.
So Mr. X and I are, 22 years old at the time, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a younger black gentleman is who he was speaking with. It turns out no one had drugs on him except Mr. X did happen to have, like, I don't know, some bag of marijuana in his pocket. Fast
Yeah.
version of the story, they took us into the station. This is just shortly after I had my knee surgery. And it's Chicago. It's the mid 90s. I just pleaded with the officer. I said, listen, I was roommates with the son of one of the lieutenants in Chicago. I'm not making this up. Officer looks at me. He said, "You better not be making this up." So they kind of like treated us a little bit different. But this
Yeah.
poor young black guy, I witnessed this, and it was grisly and brutal and terrible. And I'm only talking about it because it's the truth.
Yeah.
They handcuffed this man to the chair, spit on him, beat on him, kicked him over, like, and the guy didn't even have like. The guy was completely compliant, did not like do anything you can remotely justify that type of
Yeah.
treatment to.
Yeah.
And it was like it was nauseating to see it take place, man.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you, I've taken, again, back to my podcast and the stuff that I talk about. I from time to time will talk about the social situation back home in the United States, and of course, that also includes racism, equal rights, and different political aspects of that. And boy, did I take a lot of heat. I still take a lot of heat over the last 3 years, with all of these police shootings, police killings of Black people that certainly don't deserve to have been shot. So I bring that up, and I've lost friends, former friends in the police police work have turned their backs on me because I tell it like it is. There is a problem with the way police work is done, and it's been a problem in Chicago and the Chicago area for a long time. So your story does not surprise me in the slightest bit.
yeah, and with that said, man, there are some police officers out there that are freaking upstanding, badass
Yes,
guys, great
absolutely.
friends. I'm going to shout out to
Absolutely.
Andrew Jelinuski. He worked
Andy
homicide in Harvey,
Jelinuski. Hold on
Illinois.
now. Hold on. I know Andy.
Oh,
There
Jello.
we go. I know
Yeah.
Jello. I love that guy. I haven't seen him or talked to him. And his mother, as a matter of fact, lived less than a block away from my wife and I while we were.
Oh
living
wow,
there.
totally small world, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't. So labeling me as someone that hates cops or doesn't support the cops, that's bullshit.
Well,
the
yeah.
other side of the coin is I will call it out, man, because
Yes.
to me, being an officer of the law does carry a higher responsibility, and I can share some other stories with you too, none of which would surprise you. And I'm proud of you for being able to speak about it and call it out, man, because in my world, it's something that needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed.
Well, people have to understand, and I wish this generation of police officers would understand that just like in the world in general, the world of police work is full of good and bad people. And those of us that are good should call out the bad. If we're truly proud of the job we do, we will call out the bad cops.
Right on, man. And again, it's easy for me to say, having never been a police officer. I've been arrested a number of times. That counts for anything.
Yeah.
But, like it's easy to armchair quarterback. And I get the fact that it has to be a tough job.
Sure.
But
sure.
I know you can speak with authority, having been there, having actually had a career, and being a Black gentleman in that role, that brings a whole other set of challenges, I'm sure. So
it is a tough job, especially in Chicago or the Chicago area. There's just a different environment there. It's more of a us and them atmosphere in Chicago than probably any other city in America. Chicago, as we know, is the most segregated city in America. And unfortunately, that says something about the way the public responds to the police and vice versa.
Let me share this with you too. I would agree that, especially historically, Chicago is one of the most segregated cities. However, where I come from, Aurora, Illinois, just an hour west of Chicago, the opposite is true. Because I remember, like when you go to a party as a kid in Aurora, Illinois, there is no segregation. It's whatever. Everybody, your guy grew up, lived down the street with, played football with, became friends with. There wasn't a real line of color that determined who your friends were or weren't. And I remember some college friends coming out to visit to Aurora and going to a party with us, and they're like, "What is going on? What are you guys doing here? What do you mean?" There's Black kids here. There's Mexican kids here. What are you guys doing? Well, I don't know. Just go to a party. What the hell's your problem? So we didn't, thank God we didn't grow up experiencing that segregation. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen elsewhere.
Yeah. Chicago, the city itself, is rife with that. But you come out into the suburbs and you're going to meet beautiful people who know what's going on, and they love everybody for who they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were just all equally pessimistic back at that time. We didn't like,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
we didn't, you know, we all had the same kind of shit sandwich, so we all enjoyed it together, so to speak.
That is so cool that you know Andy, that you know Jello, the Jello man.
The
Yeah.
Jello man. Yeah, I used to like, yeah, he's got some cool stories too. And I think I was going to reach out to him shortly to have him on as a guest because, man, he's got some fantastic stories. One is just kind of he came up to me one day in the gym and said, "Hey, Core, check this video out." Showed me on his phone. He had pulled over a woman, DUI suspect, blatantly, and all of a sudden you see Jello move from the left side of the car. He just kind of like has this look at his face, walks away, and like a few seconds later, wham! This car comes by. He just said for some reason he had this gut punch to get out of
Oh
the way,
man.
and he had the
Wow.
whole thing captured on video. Man, what a miracle that was to see. It
As
really,
if the job isn't dangerous enough, we also got to watch out for stuff like that.
yeah. So that was just, and he's got 100 other stories. That one just kind of came to mind because I remember just watching it. Like it was, it's like one of those like, did this really happen to you videos you might see on one of those shows. It
Yeah.
really happened to him. So.
Well, Jello is a beautiful guy. Everybody loved him. He was a hell of a bencher. He would come into quads there from time to time. Good cop, good guy all around. Tell him I said hi. I haven't
Yeah,
talked
I
to him in
absolutely will. He's
years.
got, yeah, some of his stories from Harvey are just, he's definitely going to be, assuming he comes on the show, I won't have to say much. Just turn over to Joe and start telling stories.
Oh man, he can certainly talk about Harvey. Oh man.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Oh God. Small world, small world.
Sure is. Matthias, you got any questions? You usually have a few that come from the lurk in the depths of that mind of yours.
Oh, let's see if I can find something deep down in the
Oh
geek
man,
thing.
here we go. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Okay. So let's take something simple like your training cycles for powerlifting is much in the same line of what Ed Cohn did, right?
For the most part, for most of my lifting career since I met him, yes.
Well, what does that mean? For our listeners, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Most people probably, if you can explain what that even means, I think it'd be helpful to the audience.
Yeah, a little bit of a rundown of how a training cycle typically looks for you. Like, what is the thought behind it, something like that?
Well, like I say, I used to train in that Ed Cohen style, squat once a week, bench once a week with a light bench day on Saturday, deadlift once a week, and then fill in with the supplemental exercises. And to a large extent, I still do that. I do my supplementary exercises like a bodybuilder. That's in my DNA. And it was also reinforced by watching the way Ed trained. What is different now is that I have split squatting up into 2 different days. I have a heavy day and I have a light or supplemental day for quads and hamstrings. Now, because of my shoulder, I also don't bench at all. Any chest work I do is basically flies, whether it's in a cable machine or with the dumbbells. But for squat and deadlift, I am definitely on that Ed Cohen principle of being very conservative from week to week. I'm not making big jumps from week to week. I don't miss lifts in training, especially now with a bad shoulder. And since I train at home now, I've been training at home. I have my own gym here for the last 2 years. So I set up programs that are quite conservative. I can see the path from the first week and I know where I'm going to end up on the last week. And those lifts are set in stone and I make each lift.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I remember you said to me a long time ago that every cycle you make like a kind of a small PR every time, like personal record every time.
Yeah. And that goes back to that philosophy of having short-term goals so that you can experience that winning feeling, that feeling of progression every time. And I try to do that in my life in general, but specifically, yes, in my training program, because it's so systematic. And I'm talking about, from 1 week to the next, maybe a 2.5% rise in the amount of weight. That's not much at all. But it almost guarantees that at least by the end of that training cycle, I'm going to be sitting with a new PR. And that is the key to me having this ability that I've had so far to be consistently stronger, especially in my squat, even at the age of 52. My goal is, however old I am when I do it, my goal is to squat 800 pounds, 360, what is that? 360,
365, baby. I know
365. There you go.
363 actually.
363.5, I think it is, isn't it? Or something like that.
Well, you're right. 804 is 365. Now you mentioned it.
That's right. Yeah. But let me tell you, there's a funny story about why I have to squat 800 pounds raw. That's because, going back to Eddie Cohen, one time Eddie is he's got this real dry, sarcastic sense of humor. And there was a period where he was always calling me fat. So I was really laying into him, teasing him back about being short and stuff like that. And he says, well, when you can squat 800 pounds, then it's okay to be fat. So I said, okay, you're on. I'm going to squat 8. And this was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm still on that journey to get up to 363 kilos.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you hit 770. So
yeah.
30 pounds away, 50, whatever kilos away. Yeah, I'm sure you'll hit it, man.
The way I look at it, those kilos up until 363, that's just a mental thing. I physically am capable of doing that as easy as lifting has been going for me. I'm fully capable of doing that. I've just got to program it, follow the program, and it's going to get done. That's my attitude. That's my focus. That's my self-assuredness that goal is reachable. Again, you've got to have realistic goals. You've got to have a realistic training program. And I got that specifically from Ed Cohen. He always used to say, don't get greedy with your training. Keep it conservative. You should not be missing a lift during training. So I'm definitely a follower of that philosophy from Ed Cohen. Definitely.
I want to share something. Hold on one second, Matthias. I want to share something with John to just kind of reinforce what he's at least from my perspective, what he's talking about. In my I think my last 5 years of training, I don't recall missing a squat, and the only deadlift I missed was my final heavy deadlift before my attempt at the world record, 2017 Arnold. I was scheduled to pull somewhere between 895 and 915. It just so happened Eric Lillybridge and I were doing heavy deadlifts on the same day. Eric goes and smokes a 920. Ego takes over. I load the bar to 940, which is actually 1 pound above the world record in my weight class. And I almost got it. But what did I do? I patterned that miss in my training. And so I really think if I just kept my damn ego in check and stuck with the game plan, my hunch is I would have sailed into that world record. It was so close to the contest day, but I just don't think I quite recovered enough. That miss, and especially in a high-end deadlift or squat, that miss is takes a toll on your system, man.
Sure, absolutely. Well, again, that's a very important lesson that I learned from Ed. Don't get greedy. Don't miss lifts during training. Keep it conservative. Make sure you know that you can do what's in that training program for that particular week. And I want to say a side thing, Corey, that must be cool to train with Lillybridge. Good Lord, what a monster. What a monster.
The whole family, just beautiful people, man. Learned so much from them. So supportive, so generous. I can only say awesome, positive words about the whole family, man.
Yeah. That's cool.
But
anyway, did I answer your question, Matthias?
Yeah, you got the word out that I mean, it actually reminds me of my old coach, Carsten Larsen, or people call him like the Viking or the Dozer Viking. You probably haven't met him, but Ed Cohen has several times, also when he was a younger lifter. And he's a very big fan of Ed Cohen, like barely any equipment, like the old school loose suits and stuff like that, and 424 kilos. And he told me right from the start, he likes to have lifters who are kind of the lazy side. They can make a little bit of progress, see the weight come up fast, and just be happy with it, go home, come back next week and be stronger. And even ended up like close to a PR, maybe 10% less than an old record, have it explode up for 2 sets of 2 reps, and maybe not even doing anything after that, just go home and then go for a big record later on instead of right away.
Well, there's a lot to be said for being patient. Of course, you want to push yourself, so there is a balance there, but I like to be more conservative rather than be adventurous with a training program. I want to make sure that there's consistent progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act, that's for sure. I mean,
sure,
John,
absolutely.
I know you're not squatting raw 770 pounds by not being aggressive. So
exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. Corey and myself, we like a little bit of adventure, but we're also pretty banged up. So
yeah. Yeah.
It's like a fine line to dance on, you know, like you want a small record and then you want a big one after that. Sometimes you do it, but maybe sometimes you shouldn't.
Yeah. Patience. Don't get greedy.
Yeah, and focus. I mean, I think deep down, a lot of people know when they should or shouldn't go up in weight. They have that feeling inside, kind of that voice in the back of their head. It's all about listening to it, you know?
Well, I always say, you can usually see it in their face, in their eyes, and the way that they approach the bar, whether they have overextended themselves and they're going to miss the lift. It's such a psychological thing. If you look close, you can kind of see it on the face sometimes when somebody's going to miss a big lift. Yeah.
Let me share this with you, John. My training, granted, it's a training PR, but I'm still proud of it. But the important thing I'm going to mention is it was a pretty aggressive jump that I took, and it actually turned out to be 21 pounds heavier than I even thought it was going to be.
Yes.
Ended up smoking it. Now, if I known it was at an additional 21 pounds, would I still have smoked it? I don't know. And then, are you familiar with like the bench record holder, Tiny Meeker, John? Does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay. At the Arnold, I think it doesn't matter, 2015 or 2016, I forget which one it was exactly. He had a misload, a 200-pound misload. His opener in the bench was 1,050, and they loaded the bar to 1,250. And son of a gun, if he didn't give that a good effort, So again, if someone would have told him, "Hey, Tiny, this is 1,250 on the bar," would he even have tried it? So he controlled it. He brought it down. It was like he pushed that son of a gun over halfway up to the lockout.
Yeah, well, see, that's
150 pounds. So the power of belief, man, it's just so important.
That is a very good testimony that refers to the power of belief. It is such a mental game, this thing that we do with powerlifting. And again, I try to let that bleed out into my life in general, and that helps me to keep focus on things. It helps me to continue to grow so that I'm in a better position to take care of friends, family, and myself. It's a mantra I have. I'm looking to learn so I can grow, so that I can be stronger and in a better position to help my friends, family, and myself. I just
that echoes like the message of our last guest, a kid named Joey Goodspeed, had a wonderful NFL career, and he at a moment in time used a message that really helped him. These words that became a belief. You can control two things: your knowledge, because you can always learn more, and your effort, because you can always try a little bit harder. It kind of echoes the same thing that you just said.
Well, there you go. You just put me in the same box as a professional athlete. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. And but again, intentionally I did. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that. But again, this whole thing about people who achieve, people who in general live a positive life, there's a commonality of thought, it craves that discipline. It craves that kind of focus. And you'll see that over and over again with people who focus on getting things done. And that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on getting things done. I'm a very blessed man. I'm doing things that I love. I've got a beautiful family. I couldn't ask for more.
Man, I'm proud of you. Just hearing your story, man. To me, you're an American hero. Well, you live in Norway now. Who cares? The point is, you're a hero. I mean, the things you've accomplished, you held your stuff together. I don't know what trauma you dealt with as a kid, but having, I can relate. And it's not always easy to hold things together, man. So the fact that you did that, kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And likewise to you, Corey. I like what you're doing. I can't wait to hear this radio program on the airwaves. And I wish you and Matthias the best of luck. I love you, Matthias. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been way too long.
Yeah, it's been way too long. But I appreciate getting an opportunity to tell my story on your platform.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like
both of you.
I'd like to give a special thanks to Matthias, because if it wasn't for him, I would probably not have heard about you to have you as a guest. So thank you, Matthias.
There you go. It's a small world, man. It's called networking. It's called networking.
It's called some people.
Any parting thoughts by anybody?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Any
parting thoughts? Because we are definitely at our time limit. And
Yeah.
Parting thoughts. I want to tell everybody out there to be positive, be strong, know your limits, and then reach just a little bit past your limits. As long as you do that, it's going to mean continuous growth. And I'm not just talking about strength sports. I'm talking about life in general. There's my last words.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. Much love to everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Rap Fiend Radio kicks back out in a couple minutes here. Squat Life CNS Activator, a couple new products coming soon, and we'll talk about that in future episodes. Thank you again, Matthias. Thank you, John, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thank you so much.